And some people, is it the time for Maghrib? Imam, are you sure? So why Brother Wesley is giving adhan right now? It's too early, right? Brother Abdul Basit said, what? Is it Maghrib? Subhanallah. So Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Actually, it's a great time. When we talk about the surahs of the Quran, and we get to know Surah Al-Fath, the absolute victory. And what did Allah call the Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, the Hudaybiyah treaty? It's the absolute victory. And what was the purpose? And I wanted this idea, actually, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help me to make it clear. Because what is the absolute victory from the point of view of the Quran, or the perspective of the Quran? So you think like they were going to do Umrah, then they were rejected, and they returned it back. So what is the victory in this? Where is the victory? Yes. Recognized by the elites of Quraysh. And that's actually, Muslims, that's a great point, actually. But I will add, with if you allowed me, actually, that I will add two more points. That yes, it comes to the political gain that the Muslims got at that time, after being called as cult, as with our modern, what's the modern term that they call for some groups of Muslims? And without mentioning this, but yes, but actually, after a long time of persecution, they were for the first time to be considered to sit on one table to negotiate something. So that's actually a gain, political gain. And number two, as Doctor said, the 10 years of peace. And by the way, Islam flourishes more in the time of peace. Like if you are an imam, like Brother Muhammad Khan, we assigned him to be the imam of the masjid. And you got the masjid, and there is conflict, jama'at, groups, and they are backbiting, whispering, and they conflicting, and they have ahzab in the masjid. And would you be able to deliver your da'wah? No. And if he uttered one word, it could have many interpretations. Oh, does the imam belong to this group? Is he encouraging those? Oh, Brother Abdul Basit invited him for dinner. He's taking him to his group. That way? So these kinds of, actually, you cannot practice da'wah. Huh? Yeah, yes. We are waiting, yeah? Oh, yes. Yes. Brother Faisal is here. So actually, this is the point, that when you do that, 10 years of peace in the treaty, that would help to flourish the da'wah. Number three, you remember the people of Al-Ahzab, when they gathered together in the Battle of the Trench? What was the marketing style that the Quraysh people had used? They said to all the tribes, even those who didn't have animosity with Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we need your money, we need your donation, we need your people, so we can just in one attack, we can finish Islam. Did they fail, or did they succeed? They failed, right? They failed. And now those people are upset with the people of Quraysh. And why is that? Because we had no animosity, and you pulled our legs to a certain war that we didn't have any share of it. And finally, we ended up creating animosity with the Muslims. And by this time, you are talking about the second year is Badr, third year is Uhud, fourth year, and the fifth year is the Battle of the Trench. By this time in Al-Madinah, with the treaty with the Jewish people in Medina. Lots of people started to come to Islam. Lots of people migrated from Mecca to Medina and they entered to Islam. The Muslims' number are getting bigger and bigger, and their roots are getting solid and solid in Medina, stronger and stronger. And now you made us to create problems with them, and you tried to poison our minds that we are going to get rid of them, which didn't happen at all. By that time, I wanted you to get it like that way. You know, when you have two parties and after the election, you know, and you get one of the parts are getting weaker and weaker, one of the parts are getting bigger and bigger. So now the whole things are getting reddish, right? And the blue one. But imagine if that's the Quraysh is the purple and Muslims are the white. Okay, so imagine after signing the treaty, what is going to happen? The white is going to get bigger and the purple is smaller. Plus, now all the tribes in Quraysh, around the people of Quraysh, all the tribes, what happened after the treaty signed? They blamed the leaders of Quraysh. They said, are those people that you call them barbaric, savage, dangerous, and now you are signing a treaty with them? So they actually, it was a good hit. At that time, they lost their allies. And that's the tactic. So it's a strategic victory by that time. The fourth reason, from my point of view, I could be wrong, that the actual victory actually was in the people themselves, the Sahaba, in their obedience to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because it's not about winning the war, and that's actually lots of Muslims nowadays are obsessed with the idea when Allah is going to give us victory. What do you call victory? What's the definition of victory? Military? No. Like when bombing a certain place, destroying it? No. And you can see it right now. After all bombing and after all this bombarding and destroying and the buildings, did the people submit? No. Did the people surrender? No. Did the people accept the invaders? No. Is that called victory? No. So what is victory actually? According to the scholars, victory is winning the hearts before winning the lands, changing the minds and the hearts of people. And it doesn't need to have rockets, missiles, and weapons. It could be by word. Winning the hearts, that is the best and fastest and most peaceful way to conquer not the lands, the hearts. That's victory. So for Muslims, I want you to imagine this. Rasulullah told them, I have seen the dream, let's go. Did they go with Rasulullah? Yes. Then in the midst of the way, they got the news that they are rejected. So let's stop here in Hudaybiyah. Let's put our tents, let's stay here. And they stayed. Then they got the news that Uthman was killed. Let's take our ihram off and seek revenge. Okay, let's go. Who is giving me the pledge? We are, Ya Rasulullah, under the tree. Okay? And it's a pledge to die. That's the most dangerous part. They have no weapons. They have no weapons. And when the news had spreaded that the Sahaba had given the pledge to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to fight, to seek revenge for the killing of Uthman, all the tribes around the Quraysh, they scared of the Muslims. Listen, Quraysh didn't sign the treaty after Badr, which makes sense. Badr, Muslims won. They could sign the treaty by that time. No, they didn't sign the treaty after Uhud. They didn't sign the treaty after Al-Ahzab. They signed the treaty when Muslims has no weapons, when Muslims have ihram on, when Muslims are going to Umrah. This is the time. Why? Because they knew very well that those people, you cannot play with them. They pledge on death while they have no weapons, and they are ready to die because of what they believe. That what make Muslims are unique till today. And I have listened yesterday to one of the rabbis. He's describing very honestly the descendants of Ishmael. And he is making a good comparison between the descendants of Ishaq, the descendants of Ismail. And he is calling the Muslims nowadays the descendants of Ishmael. And why they are different, why they are so unique, why they are the only people in the entire world are making noise, you know, are making, yeah, like they are not easy to handle. They are not easy to make them to obey your orders. They are not scared of dying. He said, because they believe in something and their spiritual side is so high. They have this commitment that they are ready to die even for things that we cannot see. Like, yes, they are ready to die to enter Jannah. They are ready to die to please Allah. He said, imagine if you give them money. If you offer them money, some people, you cannot negotiate with them. And now we can see nowadays, it happens in the land. You can go to any of the leaders, offer him billions of dollars, and they refuse it. They kick it. Say, no, our dignity is more important. Our deen is more important. Our Quds is more important than anything. You cannot buy them. He said that's the most important part. He said, and the reason, from his point of view, the reason that we need to defeat them, that to get more spiritual than them. You know? So that's actually the idea. And subhanallah. Okay, so now this is what we call it the ultimate victory. But I wanted to tell you something about Al-Hudaybiyah. Do you remember the conditions? 10 years of peace. And whoever came from Medina to enter Mecca declaring apostasy, declaring ridda, leaving Islam, he is allowed. And whoever leaves Mecca to go to Islam, he is not allowed. The Muslims have to send him back. And you know what is going to happen when they send him back? He's going to be killed. So no one is going to think of it. But during that time, actually, now we have 10 years of peace. And during that time, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam started to approach the tribes around Mecca, those who were upset with the people of Quraysh during the Hudaybiyah treaty. He started to approach them. Look at the technique. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't only a leader, wasn't only a commander, wasn't only a messenger, a prophet, but he was also a politician, but not like right now. Okay? And he started to approach those people, offering them whether two sides, or whether you stop being, you know, in the other camp, or to be our allies. So some people said, you know what? From the beginning, we have no animosity with you. And you have our word from now. If there is any conflict in the future, we will not participate. We will not be part of it. Some people agreed, and they said, we will become your allies. Now the Muslims are getting the white color, you remember? And the purple is diminishing more and more and more. And subhanallah, by that time, who was, yes, Auntie Mariam, not a politician, it's a diplomat. I like that one. Yes, Suhail ibn Amr. And at that time, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually wanted to communicate with lots of leaders, whether in Medina and outside Medina. And who is there in Mecca that he is the leader of Mecca at that time? Who is the leader at that time? Abu Sufyan. Because all of the leaders, like Al-Walid, like Abu Jahl, all of them had died, whether in Badr or in Uhud or in the Battle of the Trench. But by that time, Abu Sufyan wanted to know about Islam. Now Islam is flourishing. It cannot be, this man has to be on the right side. And of course, you remember that name. You remember the king of the Rome at that time, Hercules. Yeah, the Hercules. He sent during the 2 years from the 8th year of Hijrah after signing the treaty. Muslims went back, and the relationship and the Medina started to flourish more and more economically. Like. On the social level, and the trade started to resume. And who is that on the head of the trade from Mecca? Abu Sufyan, on the caravan. So he reached to Rome, and actually at that time, Hercules had heard of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What made him to hear of the Rasulullah? Yes, he sent an invitation. Rasulullah sent an invitation to the man who just defeated the Persian. When he read about this, he asked, is there any one of the Arabs here? They said, yeah, Abu Sufyan. They said, okay, bring him. And Abu Sufyan came with 2 other Arabs with him to the castle of the Hercules. And he told him, you know what? I want to ask you about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he made the 2 friends of Abu Sufyan to stay behind him. And he said, if you are going to mess with any of these questions or telling lie, I will cut your head immediately. And those in your back has to approve or to say, no, he's telling lie. Once they say, you are telling a lie, I will cut your head. You got it? So he started to give him questions. What do you know about his family? He said he's from a noble family. What do you know about his character? He's the Al-Sadiq Al-Amin, the most honest, the most trustworthy person. What do you know about his character? What do you know what he's calling for? He said he's calling for amana. He's calling for truthfulness. He's calling for being polite. He's calling for the worship of Allah. He's calling for not to steal, not to commit this, not to do this, not to do this. He's calling for justice. He's calling for equality. He's calling for ending slavery. He's calling for. And after he listened to him, he said, Hercules said, this man, by this description, he's nothing but a prophet. Yes, he talked about the followers. He said, are the elite or the poor people? He said, the poor people. He said, if any of his followers had abandoned Islam one day because they discovered it's not fitting to them, he said, no, they never abandoned Islam. And he said, this man is nothing but, according to your description, but he is a prophet. And at that time, Abu Sufyan started to think, yeah, from Hercules. And he by himself, he witnessed the truth. Otherwise, if he told lie, he will be killed. Apparently, when he started to come back to Mecca, he actually started to think about Islam, but he didn't declare Islam. And he was afraid from the people at that time. And subhanallah rabbil alameen. By this time, you know, the 10 years of peace, there was a tribe, it's called Banu Bakr. And the other is called Khuza'a. So Banu Bakr from the people of Quraysh, or allies with the people of Quraysh. And Banu Khuza'a had signed like a treaty between the Muslims, like allies. And the Banu Khuza'a wanted to do Umrah. And they went to the Miqat. And they had the Ihram on. Banu Bakr, because they had animosity with Banu Khuza'ah, they actually attacked them while they have the ihram and they killed them. They killed Banu Khuza'ah. They killed the Muslims from there. So what does that mean? So the treaty now is violated. We are now talking about after 2 years of signing the treaty. Just 2 years. Still we have 8 years of peace. But what does it mean to kill Muslims who have ihram? Can you imagine? Can you imagine this happens nowadays? 2024, Muslims are getting killed by ihram in the sacred land. That's horrible. And the news came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what did Rasulullah decide? Now it's time to march to Mecca. That's all. That's it. Now they violated the treaty. Now we have to move on. Now we have to go to conquer Mecca. We need to go. Who felt the dangerous? Abu Sufyan and the leaders of Quraysh. Now Muslims are strong. If they moved to Mecca, we have no other. And not only this, they are ashamed of what Banu Bakr had did for them. They are ashamed. And all the other tribes started to blame them. What a very shameful action. You guys killed people with ihram, innocent, with no weapons. You killed women, you killed children. What like you are guys insulting us? And that's what happened. By that time, Abu Sufyan, listen to this. Abu Sufyan for the first time moves from Mecca to Medina for what? To apologize. See this? See the power of Muslims? For the first time, he wants to go to apologize for Rasulullah and to extend the treaty, to tell him, forgive us for what happened and let's go to continue the treaty. So what's the first thing he made? He actually went to Medina. Who is there in Medina so he can go? His own daughter. What's his daughter's name? Ramla. Who is Ramla? Yes, surprisingly, she is the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ramla bint Abi Sufyan. Her name is Habiba. Her nickname is Habiba. And by the way, it's a very, very amazing story. Ramla bint Abi Sufyan, Habiba, al-Mu'minin, radiyallahu anha. She was from the very first people to accept Islam in Mecca. And she migrated, the first migration from Mecca to Abyssinia, to Habasha, in Ethiopia, to Abyssinia. And she stayed there. She stayed there all these years with her husband, with her daughter. And subhanallah, they lived there, and she got persecuted in Mecca under the eyes of her own father. So can you imagine? Her father is the leader of Mecca, and she still gets persecuted because of her Islam. I don't want to take the time just to explain about her journey, but finally she migrated at that time. She is in Habasha, and she lost her husband. Her husband passed away, and now she is a widow with an orphan, her daughter. Her situation financially wasn't good at all. So Rasulullah ﷺ didn't like that she's begging people for money. She's the daughter of the leader of Quraysh. She's the daughter of Abu Sufyan. So Rasulullah ﷺ asked her for marriage to be protected, and people will treat her in a very respectful way because she will be the mother of the believers. Surprisingly, Rasulullah didn't have money to pay her mahr. Who paid the mahr? Al-Najashi, Ashama. Al-Najashi himself. Yes, the king of Abyssinia. And actually, he was one of the people who did the nikah and attended the nikah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And he paid the mahr on behalf of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And some people talked about the mahr, and she was the most expensive mahr that amongst the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Long story short, Abu Sufyan went to Medina, and the first house to seek is the house of his own daughter. And by the way, Abu Sufyan admired the marriage of his daughter to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he praised the Rasulullah while Abu Sufyan was in Mecca and heard about the news that his daughter married Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He praised this and he agreed, and he said some statements about ni'mal ar-rajulu hadha. He praised Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's the man that I can feel safe for my daughter to be with him. See, and still he is showing the animosity to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What kind of minds? But long story short, he came to Medina and he arrived and he knocked at the door. Now you are talking about 16 years since his daughter didn't see him. So what he's expecting? Warming welcome, right? Cheering up, like she's jumping, oh my dad, and she hugs him. But because of the persecution that she got in Mecca, because of the killing of the people of the Ihram of Banu Khuza'ah, she was very sad. And number three, he gave her hard time to the Muslims. And not only this, his own wife. What's his own wife? Hind. Hind. She is the one that paid for the killing of Hamza, the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And by the way, Hind afterwards entered to Islam in the Fath Mecca, in the conquest of Mecca. And that's ajib. That's amazing. Hind. Yes, she became Muslimah afterwards. But that's not the way. That's not what I want to say. What I want to say, when he entered, she was so numb because of what happened to the Muslims and to her own husband, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She had a little bit of mattress, and this mattress has a mat, and that mat was for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He used to sit on the mat. So when he wanted to sit, she rolled up the mat and put it away from him. He said, my daughter, what's wrong with you? Do you think I'm so honorable to sit on this mat, or the mat is so honorable so I can't sit on it? She said, no, the mat is so honorable. You are not worth of sitting on this mat. That's for Rasulullah, and you are mushrik. You are a disbeliever. And I do not think it's a good place to sit on the same mat when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is sitting. No, you cannot say. That's her own father. She said, you do not worthy of sitting here on that place that Rasulullah is sitting on. So he felt that he getting humiliated and insulted. That was the first reaction. So he left the house and he went searching for whom? For Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And by the way, he talked with him. He said, look, what happened was an accident. So we want to extend the treaty. And I came to apologize. Rasulullah did not respond. You know why? For two reasons. Number one, because he already made his mind. He already took the decision that he will move to Mecca very soon. Number two, if he spoke a word and he said to him, Khalas, don't worry, he is the Prophet of Allah. He cannot tell lie. That's why he didn't respond. And that's the second slap on the face of Abu Sufyan. Number three, he left and went to Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr did not respond. because all Muslims were angry. Were angry. Did you see what you did with Muslims? Now you came to apologize. You shed the blood. You killed the Muslims while they have ihram. That's a horrible action. And Abu Bakr didn't respond. Then he went to Umar. Umar didn't respond. Then he went to whom? To Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib. To Sayyidina Ali. And Sayyidina Ali started to blame him. And who is there in the house of Ali? Sayyidah Fatima. And he started to call her, started to he knows that Rasulullah loves her. And he said, you can talk with your father. Tell him about what happened. And she is even giving him worse words than Habiba. You guys came to up, like, are we playing here? You shed the blood of the innocents and you came to play games here? She refused. And he went to Al-Abbas. And you know Al-Abbas has that kind of wisdom. And he said, you know what? I do not think you can make that negotiation. Yeah, it's not going to work. So you know what? I advise you personally. Why don't you come to Islam? Don't you think about Islam? He said, I think about Islam, but my concern now is to do the negotiation. He said, forget about negotiation. Rasulullah made up his mind. Khalas, finished. He will go to Mecca. He said, if that's the case, give me advice. He said, my advice, you go to your people and inform the people of the masjid here that you will stay safe, and whoever will be in your area, you will let them not to engage in any act of violence. You take your people in Mecca and declare it here in the masjid that you will not participate in any act of violence if Muslims came. So he went to a masjid and he started to shout and scream, everybody listen to me. I am Abu Sufyan and I know you guys, you are very respectful, but you know what? If you came to Mecca, I will be on the side waiting for you, but I will not participate in any action of violence. Me and my people. And he went back to Mecca. So all the leaders of Mecca received him. What did you do? Did you extend the treaty? Did he accept the negotiation? He said, no, it's too late. Now it is too late. And the Muslims started to march from Medina to Mecca, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for the first time in the history, and I believe it is the only time in the history of the mankind that somebody marches to the city and he conquered the city peacefully, without shedding blood. And all the people would accept him and open the hearts, conquesting. And, you know, he gets to the hearts of the people when they find him for the first time entering Mecca. And how did he enter Mecca? He didn't enter Mecca with arrogance. He entered as a leader, as a wise person, as a modest person with modesty. He entered and he was riding his camel, lowering his head down to the point that some people said, we found that forehead is touching the back of the she-camel that he was riding. He was entering Mecca with sort of humbling, with sort of modesty. Subhanallah. And no one had seen a leader entering a city like this. And once he entered, the Sahaba started to preach Islam, and Rasulullah had a little stick with him. So he used to go around the Kaaba, because long time. Yes, long time. See how many years now? 13 years in Mecca before the da'wah, and now 8 years in Medina. So almost 21 years. 21 years. And the Kaaba is filled with idols, fake gods. So he used to push those gods with the little stick. And people of the Mecca see their gods, fake gods, are broken, and no one is caring about Hubal, about Uzza, about Al-Lat anymore. Now Hubal, Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, why? Because he broke the idols first in their hearts. He conquered the hearts before he, and look at the difference. Some scholars made a comparison between his situation and the situation of Sayyidina Ibrahim when he entered to the temple and he broke the idols and he put the axe on the head of the tallest, the biggest one. They said they ended up building back the temple, having more idols in it, and putting Ibrahim in the fire. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, and that's the absolute victory. This is when Allah revealed, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. By that time, all the people, actually, those, Rasulullah signed the treaty with them, the different tribes. Now they came, when they heard Rasulullah came back to Mecca, they entered Islam in groups, even with those who showed animosity to Muslims. And when Muslims surrounded them, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came amongst them, and he said, "What do you think that I'm going to do with you?" They said, "A nobleman, the son of a nobleman. We do not expect bad from you. You're always our son. You're always a good man." And he said, "Yes, I cannot say for you except what Yusuf said to his brothers." So Rasulullah considered them as his brothers. And he said, "لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم وهو أرحم الراحمين." There is no blame upon you today. May Allah forgive you. May Allah shower you with His mercy. He said, "Go. You are all free." Free with no money? Yes. Free with no resistance? Yes. Free with nothing. Free even those who killed his companions, those who give him hard time, even Hind, she came on that day declaring Islam. What kind of conquest is this? It's a celebration, actually, by the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that was the Fath of Mecca. And the word the Fath, the word in English, the conquest, is not the proper translation, actually, because people would understand conquest as military violence, actions, killing, fighting, which did not happen, except for the historical record, what happened on the left side with Khalid ibn al-Walid. Just very few people. Khalid ibn al-Walid took some people around on the left side just to want to make some conflict, some fight, and the Muslims stopped them and took their weapons away, and nothing happened. Subhanallah. And that was peacefully done. So it needs to be mentioned as Fathu Mecca without being translated as conquest, as the word conquest. And it's not only also the surrender. It's not only because surrender have that sense of humiliation, and which did not happen at all. But the word the Fath means opening, the opening of Mecca. And we have Surah Al-Fatiha, the opening surah. That's why it's called Fathu Mecca. Inshallah, tomorrow we're going to talk more and more about the tree that Rasulullah ﷺ made, the treaty, and the description of the believers in Islam and in the Quran. How Allah in the Quran described the believers and the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all. Allahumma ameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us His mercy. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.